The officers involved in the Jacob Blake shooting have been cleared of any and all criminal charges. Surprise, surprise, that's the video. Welcome to my channel. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Now, it's interesting. The Jacob Blake situation that happened on, I believe it was August the 23rd, 2020, was just a mere 3 days after I first started doing YouTube videos and creating content. So yeah, that happened the very week I started. And so sure enough, among my first videos ever done was commenting on the Jacob Blake situation. That also included a follow-up video and or a commentary video on, I believe it was the R&R Law Group, where I felt as though they were distorting the information when they were giving their legal analysis of the Jacob Blake situation. So the balls I had as a new YouTuber coming after and or commenting against another YouTube channel. But again, I felt there was so much misinformation going on at that time. I had to comment on it wherever I saw it. You can go check those videos out. I mean, remember back in the day when this first broke and Jacob Blake was apparently there breaking up 2 other women who were having a domestic dispute and or argument. So he was somehow this innocent victim that the cops just went after the black man. You know, remember when Jacob Blake was not resisting arrest or not doing anything, just walking away from the whole situation, from the harassment, and he was supposedly unarmed? There was a lot of falsehoods that were being put out, but let's just discuss the facts. I will try to leave a link in the comment section below regarding the 87-page report, an investigative report that was done on this, which included thousands of hours of man time, gathering of information. It included not only the local police department, but also the Department of Justice and DCI group, as well as I believe it was about 30 FBI agents were assigned to this as well. So you had the FBI, the Department of Justice, and Kenosha PD all working together, multilateral interaction and cooperation on this. Can't really say much to bias. And here's what they concluded. And you need to know the whole backstory. So back in May of 2020, Jacob Blake broke into the house of the mother of his kids. I don't believe they were married, but he broke into her house while she was sleeping in bed, where he actually did what a lot of people accuse Trump of doing and or Trump bragging that he did. And he actually inserted a part of himself into her and then left after having also stolen some things. So this sexual assault then prompted her to then file a police report, which then resulted in a warrant being placed for his arrest, as well as her getting a restraining order where he had to remain, I believe, at least 1,000 feet away. So she got a restraining order. So this was after the fact. So I would say around June of 2020. And Jacob Blake still had the nerve or the audacity, despite after the sexual assault and the warrant out for his arrest that had not been executed yet, in August of 2020, August the 23rd, breaks into her house again. He breaks into the house of the woman who he sexually assaulted, who has a warrant out for his arrest and restraining order. He breaks into her house, holds her captive and or I guess you can say false imprisonment, and steals her keys. Fearing for her safety, she calls the cops, informs the dispatcher of who he is. So by the time the cops arrive on the scene, they already have the full breakdown. And this is included in the report. They already knew before they even got there who he was, that there was a warrant out for his arrest already. They knew what the warrant was for domestic violence, as well as sexual assault. And this is a call for an ongoing domestic violence situation. So they're already trained to be on high alert in a potentially volatile situation involving any domestic violence or domestic dispute, not even including those who already have active warrants out for their arrest. And they already know they're going to have to go into arrest mode anyway. The cops arrive, and the woman actually flags them down. Oh, and by the way, Jacob Blake was in the process of stealing her car, her van. That van, that infamous van, you see him trying to get in where his kids were in, was stolen, or he was in the process of stealing it. When he accosted the woman, he actually also stole her keys and was in the process of stealing her car. In no way in his name. In fact, I believe the report says that she had rented the car. So while it may not have technically been in her name in the same sense of leasing and or buying a car, but this car was her property, her responsibility. And so he was also in the process of stealing the car at that time. So they get to him. And a lot of people say this shouldn't have happened in front of his kids, in front of the kids. This man was actively committing crimes and acts of violence with his kids present in the vicinity. He chose to break into the house of the mother of some of his kids with his kids around, a woman who he sexually assaulted. He was in the process of stealing her car, her van, with his kids in it. And with his kids there, he was proceeding to resist arrest. It's not like they weren't doing everything. It's not as though they went into a gun ho. While they were trying to arrest him, they did everything in their power to try to do it with non-lethal or violent means. They tried to subdue him. They tried to tackle him, which they did get him to the ground. And he kept resisting and fighting back. They tried to tase him on multiple occasions. He just took the taser wires off of him. And then when they tried to tase him directly on the skin, use directly with the taser itself around the neck and shoulder area, he just brushed it off. They tried to tase him. They tried to tackle him. He resisted. He kept fighting them instead of just cooperating. And while in the act of stealing her car, and what a lot of people tried to ignore was the fact that he also had a knife. You can hear in the video, at least the second video that was taken much closer to the incident as it was unfolding, as opposed to the first video that was released, that was taken from across the street, the video that was taken curbside. You can hear the officer say, "Drop the knife, drop the knife." And that's also in the report, corroborated by the other officers and witnesses. You can also see in the still shots of the video, including that video, the first video that was released to the public that was taken from across the street. By the time you see Jacob Blake supposedly popping out of nowhere from behind the car, which is, a lot of people didn't know until the second video came out, that it was from his resisting the arrest and tussle on the ground. By the time you see him turning the corner of the front of the hood of the car, to the front of the car, he had a knife out. He had a blade in hand. So he was armed, he was resisting arrest, he was not complying with the officers, and yes, in the act of stealing a car. And so they fired. Now, I will say, actually, no, what he did to the mother of his children, he's lucky he only got paralyzed when you think about karma. And had that been my sister, my mother, my aunt, my niece, what have you, that he sexually assaulted, I'm pretty sure a lot of people, if that was their relative, if that was their aunt, their mother, their daughter, their sister, their niece, what have you, they would have wanted more than just him getting paralyzed. So did he deserve it? Yes. Do I wish it didn't happen? Of course. No one wants to see someone get injured, no matter really what they did. I mean, unless if it's something even more heinous and egregious. But I digress. Fact is, you just can't do whatever you want. You cannot be out there committing crimes and not expect anything to happen. You cannot be out there committing crimes and also still in the act of committing a crime. The police then give you legit orders to cease, desist, stop. You can't just not cooperate. You can't just fight with police. That's the bad message to be sending out there. You have to comply with officers. If they tell you to stop, you stop. If they're trying to arrest you, you have to go with it. It was Jacob Blake that put himself in that situation. It was Jacob Blake that put his kids in that situation. One of the things I also have to find funny is when you read a lot of the articles and or headlines that are written about this officer not getting charged, they always are highlighting black man, white cop. These people in the media are really trying to race bait. And also another problem I have is how this was tried to be mashed in with police brutality during the whole Black Lives Matter movement that swept the country during the course of the summer of 2020. Is police brutality real in this country or in the world? Yes. There is such a thing called police brutality, where there are officers that go overboard. They are not operating within the law and proper procedure. They are abusing their authority, their power, and or their rights. There are real cases like that out there. Was this one of them? No. Are the police just hunting black men like LeBron James falsely tried to say, how he was afraid for his kids? No. Jacob Blake was a criminal. He was a sexual assaulter and was in the act of committing a crime and violating a restraining order. And again, stealing a car with his kids in it at the time of the police confrontation. They didn't seek Jacob Blake out. They weren't just hunting down a black man. This was a man who the police were called on by his victim while he was in the act of committing another crime with an active warrant out for his arrest. Don't commit a crime. Don't get involved in criminal activity. You have an extremely high likelihood of not having a negative police interaction, if any police interaction at all. Although I will say with these lockdowns, I'm all for civil disobedience, which will come into conflict with the law. But again, so long as you don't break the laws, you won't have a problem. This was not one of those instances. And all cops are not bad either. You know, there are over 370 million police interactions in this country every single year. 370 million. How many of these fake, and when I say fake, I mean fake police brutality claims are there out of these 370 million? It makes up 0.0002%, if that, maybe even less. So do we have an outbreak or a pandemic of police brutality out there in this country, a major blot, major problem? Hell no, I don't think so. I think it's getting majorly overblown. A lot of these false flags are diminishing real cases of police brutality. It's like, you're calling wolf and no one's going to believe you going forward. So it's just really sad to see that we were dragged into, the city of Kenosha was dragged into this mess over nothing. And poor Kyle Rittenhouse was put in a situation that really didn't need to be, based upon the reality of what was happening in Kenosha, what actually happened with Jacob Blake. That city did not need to burn down. It did not need to be destroyed. Did not need to be riots that resulted in the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. I'd love to follow that situation as it's ongoing. I believe he pled not guilty as his case is proceeding. So I'd love to follow that as well. But that's all I have to say on this video. It's great to see it conclude after these, it's been 4.5 months, or about 4 months. So I'm not one to be shy to say I told you so. To all those people who were saying police brutality, Black Lives Matter, he shouldn't have been shot 7 times. I told you so, or as Sheldon Cooper would say, I so informed you thusly. So that's all I have to say. That's the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If you agree, awesome. If you disagree, let me know what you don't agree with, and I'll be more than glad to have that conversation with you. If you do agree with some of my comments here, though, don't forget to like this video, comment on this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. This is Bruce the Boss Brooks, and I'm out. Peace.